Hello and welcome to the Idiot Book Nook podcast. My name is Blazewing. My pronouns are they, them.
I am the reading dragon, and my pronouns are she, her.
I'm Lady Punnet. My pronouns are primarily she, her, sometimes they, them. Today is a she, they kind of day.
And I am Kritisha. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. Today's a her chaos day.
We're
Hey.
talking about about chapter 8, not episode 8, but chapter 8 of The Thief from the Queen's Thief series by Megan Whalen Turner. But first, if you'd like to follow us on social media, you can do so at lanktr.ee/idiotbooknook. You'll be able to find links to our podcast, to our YouTube, to our Twitch, and all of our individual socials if you wish to follow us. With that being said, guys, chapter 8.
It was a chapter.
It was. We got into a temple underneath. Not a big temple, but a temple nonetheless. We almost got trapped. We managed to make it out just in time. However, the gods made an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very much enjoying this chapter. Is I think the chapter we have been waiting for.
Yes, absolutely. Up until now, it has been the last 7 chapters have been nothing but travel, and now we
Build up.
and now we actually get to do shit. But we had an appearance by the gods, and it almost seemed like it was Hera, or a representation of.
But in this case, because of who's involved in the stories, I was thinking more Hephaestia.
I mean, fair.
She was giving very much like the, oh, another one. Are you here to offer or take? Take? Okay. Let me just put your name down.
I feel that's definitely one of those things where the correct answer was give.
Yep. Make an offering to the gods, and I have a feeling they might be willing to give something in return. You know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Kind of like what you're supposed to do anyway.
You could have just said both. Like, here, have a shoe. You already took my shoe, so you might as well accept it as an offering.
Well, you said you were here to take, so I'm here to take something of yours, bitch.
Which, that's an interesting question, because that room was just solid, smooth stone. Where the fuck did the shoe go?
I mean, when water's involved, it could be just about anywhere.
I have a theory.
Oh, let's hear.
Okay, so I think in one of the rooms, basically what happens is if you're trapped in the room, then there's like a big ol' friggin' trap door, or there might even be like a trap door near the door itself that when it closes, you fall down it. Because the lantern and the crowbar were still there, right? But the shoe was gone, and the shoe was last seen near the door.
We also have the giant cavern in the back as well. I want to know what's up with the obsidian, because they pointed out now a couple of times that it's almost like windows. Almost like you can see through it.
So this place is built within the Hephaestia Mountains, which was at one point an active volcano, hence the obsidian.
Yes.
That being said,
the obsidian is being framed as a window.
In some cultures, obsidian, when carved into or polished out in just the right way, can be used as either a glass, like a glass table, or an actual window.
Yes.
Maybe we need to look up do you guys remember, so in the story, the latest story that we've gotten to hear, one of the things, there was lots of like, when the shitty brother was asking, do you have like a Samian mirror or something like that? Could that be what they were talking about?
A mirror?
Could be. The other thing that we had from that piece of lore was when the thunderbolts were stolen and the world was burning, they asked the river to change its course. to cut a path through the middle of the fire in order to reach
Eugenides and his brother.
thanks, Eugenides,
Yeah.
who is the god of thieves.
You think this is his temple?
Possibly. What happens if they find a way to change the course of the river to stop the temple from flooding?
Or to flood the temple. It could
Completely?
just be that it was so. Like, I'm thinking that the river that's currently flowing through here, the one that's has this path interrupted every once in a while.
Yeah.
I think that could very well be like, if we're thinking along the lines that like you're thinking, I'm thinking like that could be the river. That was like, well, I don't want to move because this doesn't involve me. Fuck y'all. Until I was like, oh wait, I can get something? Okay, fine.
I'm going to have to go back and examine the pieces of lore that we've been given so far, like those stories, because within each of those stories seems to be a little tidbit for us.
Yeah, there's definitely like, it feels like it's that like, definitely like, there's lots of good information always, but in that information, there's extra little bits that you don't think would be important until you're like, wait a minute, this was talked about.
Eggs.
What?
It would make.
Dragon, you're actually quite choppy and freezing a lot.
I wonder.
Actually, I think we all are.
Hello.
I think Discord's being a bitch.
I hate it when Discord's being a bitch. So I actually had a thought that it would make sense, because think about it. The god of thieves would definitely have like a temple that is difficult to break into and would have only like one-way locks. Because think about it, a thief cannot break out of something that doesn't have a lock. And also, if the hinges themselves are also made of stone, you can't melt stone easily with that time's technology.
Correct. This has literally been designed to thwart thieves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like already from like geez, words from like a literature point of view, like this chapter was like very well put together. I love I love the description of everything, but also like my inner nerd is geeking out over the architecture.
I know. Oh.
Like, I want to know how they made this. It's like, I want to see it for real in real life. I want to see something like that.
Kind of like the mysteries of monuments like Stonehenge and all that, and the Great Pyramids.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, like I think especially like part of his enchantment, I suppose, with all the obsidian is it would be kind of like the equivalent of someone today walking into like a big cave and figuring out that like there's fucking like there's big veins of gold everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you just want to take that shit away in your pocket, but you can't.
I had a thought.
What's that?
Because, so basically, this temple is like in the earth underneath a river, correct? Yep. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Eugenides originally a son of the earth?
Yes.
What better way to hide from the sky than to make it underground where he can't see?
Yeah, exactly.
And what better way to be like, hey, fuck you. You like to watch your own reflection? Well, see the door to my temple underneath one of your children, but you can't get in.
Yeah, I'm definitely picking up notes. Like that definitely, I think, tracks with how everything's been just how everything's been told. I think that works in the context of the story of something of that being like the reasoning why they did it this way for sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It tracketh.
I'm gonna be obsessed with that obsidian for a while. That obsidian's gonna bother the fuck out of me.
Well, there's something else about obsidian too, though. Because if it's a window, windows can break. And I just looked this up, and obsidian is one of the few materials that can be used for tools and stuff that is easily broken by man's actions.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it is both extremely sharp because of the way that it fractures. It can be extremely strong if used right, but at the same time, it is one of the most fragile materials that we know. A simple action of flicking it can shatter it given the right circumstances.
I'm also beginning to think that the jewel or whatever that we're after is going to be made of obsidian,
It is possible.
or
I
at
want to
least it's going to play a strong role in it.
I want to see them break this shit. I really do. I want to know what's going to happen. Then again, we could also end up with an Indiana Jones esque type scenario where they break the obsidian and suddenly everything just starts to fucking collapse. So,
Another fact, obsidian cannot be carved.
Dragon's looking
Yeah.
pretty sus for a second.
Oh, so sus.
Trying to hide behind her cup of noodles. But yeah, obsidian is one of the few stones that cannot be carved because of how brittle it is. But when chipped, the broken edges can be sharper than surgical steel,
Yes.
although easily broken. Both
It-
because of its wonderful properties as a blade and its unusual shiny black color, it was much valued through the end of the Stone Era.
Yes. One of the reasons obsidian was used was because if you hit somebody with it in the right way, it would actually shatter in their body and cause more damage, and it was extremely hard to pull out because if it hit something, it would also shatter and cause more damage. That being said, obsidian has also been known to be used in, at one point, I believe, in actual surgical instruments because
makes
of how it cuts.
Thank you,
Mhm.
Romans.
Yeah, it's also commonly used for arrowheads.
Yes.
And the joke, I took an arrow to the knee, would not only be, oh, I proposed to my wife and they don't want me to go out anymore, but also it would literally shatter in the person's kneecap, making it very difficult to do your job as a soldier.
Correct.
That's why in the movies, when they're like, oh, just hit them in the knees, they'll survive. Yeah, but you've ruined them for life.
And this was
Congratulate.
before the time of painkillers.
Yep. Congratulations. They are now incapacitated forever. I'm not gonna lie. After this chapter, I really want to read ahead.
You can't read ahead.
Not allowed.
I mean, I can.
You just can't tell it. You can't. You're just
Correct.
gonna have to poke her face.
Correct.
Damn it! Now I want to read ahead.
No. No.
Remember what happened the last time any of us had read ahead out of the three of you?
I didn't read ahead. I went looking specifically for spoilers. Thank you very much.
Also, the only reason I read ahead that one time was gonna have super, super spicy scenes that we wouldn't be allowed to read on Twitch.
Yep.
I mean, you were doing legit recon.
Yep.
I was doing legit recon, and I remember how one of it was like, that's a lot of ass and titties.
Like the beginning of that chapter was just
Why
Yep.
is it?
Moaning and groaning and ass and titties.
yeah.
Why is it spicy?
Why is it so spicy?
So
I
what
think
do
that's
we?
one of the reasons why we have to be careful with, like, if we do read, like, adult literature, is because of the fact that a lot of the good parts are spicy.
So what do we think going forward? Do we have any theories? Any thoughts?
I think there's a trapdoor somewhere in here that's only accessible when you get locked into, like, a room. Because let's face it, the doors were very obviously like, oh, you get trapped in here. But in the first room we hear you can get trapped in, there's no bones. Where are the bones? In the first room. You mean to tell me no
So
coffee?
I actually have a logical explanation for that because I've already started thinking about that. So everything is there is bones. We have no juicy corpses, so keep that in mind. All of those particular doors are grated at the bottom halves. You could have died in that room, decomposed, and then eventually gotten washed into little pieces, which is why everything ends up in that bottom area, because it's the only area that's actually sleuthed down. So all of the bones would have eventually carried down that way,
You think in that
which is
room
why
was
they're all there.
put there specifically for bone collection?
I not maybe specifically. I think it's just like like it's just a coincidence of geometry. So, like that's just where the math leads. Now that could have been done on purpose, but I feel like they're like, yeah, I feel like just over time, anything that dies in there, that's where it ends up, just because that's how everything washes away.
One of Bone Collector's first projects.
God damn it, Bone Collector.
Bone collector, stop trying to steal all the bones. Ooh, that was a nat 20.
He wouldn't be the Bone Collector if he didn't do shit like that.
Yep. But yeah, that's my theory in order to explain the lack, like why the only evidence of other humans being there is all in that one area.
How long does it take bones to get brittle?
When exposed to the elements, not that long.
Bones
Especially-
are biodegradable. Just they're
And,
weird
like,
about
I know.
it.
There's no juicy corpses though, and like there have been cases where bones have been found and they're all still pretty much intact even when they were like left out to the elements. So I'm wondering how long those bones have been there for.
According to
depends on
Google,
a lot of things.
it can decomposition of bones when left out in the elements can occur as early as 6 years or as long as 30.
So it just depends. So in this case, because the water is probably quite cold, I'm assuming there's probably like some fish and stuff like that, which would have picked at all the meaty bits. And then if there's not a lot of microbial, because the water is constantly being refreshed, things like that, the bones could have stayed preserved for a longer period of time.
Yeah. Look at Lake Superior, for instance. Lake Superior is extremely cold. It's cold enough that some of the microbial life forms that are in it, that should exist in a lake, don't actually exist, and these are the microbial life forms that actually help to decompose bodies. Which means the bottom of Lake Superior has a bunch of bodies in it that are extremely well preserved. Here's the kicker. The lake itself is warming up, which means there's the potential, because of global warming, global climate change, which means there's the potential for these microbial life forms to start existing in that environment, which means there may come a time where we just have bodies randomly popping up to the surface. They can't do it right now because the decomposition isn't happening. Once the decomposition happens, they're going to be full of gases, buoyancy.
Dragon balls with that expression.
No, just hearing her say that about Lake Superior is like, oh, that's going to be a lot.
Yeah, the random shit that I pick up, like the random fucking facts that I pick up in my day-to-day life.
Also, it might actually be a good thing, especially for any like unsolved murder cases.
Yep. Not to mention, how many shipwrecks are at the bottom of Lake Superior?
Wasn't
many
there like
cars?
a famous song based off of a ship that was sunk in Lake Superior?
Yep.
So,
With that, do we have any final thoughts?
Why is Jin the only one going in there? Why isn't there a second person there to help keep doors open?
Because why risk losing 2 people when you could only risk losing 1? And especially risk losing one that the rest of the group doesn't really seem to care about.
Also, being
Ambieties. No one cares about Ambieties.
Ambieties would have surely died within that first night.
Exactly. No one would care.
that's why we want him to go in.
Exactly.
Okay, none of us would care. However, the Magus wanted Jen to go in because, 1, his profession, 2, this place is meant for thieves, and 3, because he cares more about Ambieties than he does about Jen.
I do quickly wonder though, because he said not only has no one who's gone into this temple returned, but anyone who accompanied the party. So that is a little bit of like it was a little of information that was sort of like floof in the wind, it's gone. But that's pretty significant that you don't have to go in the temple to get ganked. So what else are there guardians in the area? Is someone watching them?
Ghosts. I bet it's ghosts. I bet it's the ghosts of all the people who have been stuck in there, and they're forced to like drag them in. I wonder how many names are on that list of the god.
Let's not forget the greed of man.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to know how many names are on that list that the god had in the beginning.
I think I would think it's pretty significant.
I want to say.
I mean,
it's
Jen
like
did say
more
in the
than-
dream that it was a long scroll.
I want to say it's more than 50, but less than 700.
Sure, that's a nice conservative number.
Mm-hmm. More than 50, less than 700.
That's a hell of a range.
I mean, it's a decent range.
You would
We
have to
don't know
think,
how many
depending.
her write- How do we know her writing doesn't take up like this much space on a page? So for all we know, she writes
Big
this
fucking
big,
letters.
so only like 10 people have tried to enter the friggin' tomb. But because she writes so big, it looks a lot more impressive than it actually is.
On that note, I think this is a good place to end this for today.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like a Santa's list style scroll that this goddess has, and it's all like it in like the prettiest of calligraphy for each name, and large enough for all who enter to see. I mean, deities tend to be larger than life to begin with, so who's to say that it's like, yeah, it's a big list. However, depending on the timing from when the myth was first created to when Jen gets in there, yeah, it could stand to reason. Probably more than 70 or more than 50, but less than 700. Significantly less than 700.
Are we saying Hephaestia is Santa Claus?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Hephaestia is
Yes.
Santa Claus!
Headcanon accepted. Too late.
Yay! Hephaestia is
All
right.
Santa Claus.
That's my contribution. Peace.
Yay!
On that note, I think this is a good place to wrap this up. So thank you for the discussion. Thoroughly appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you'd like to follow us on social
Yeah.
media, you can do so at lanktr.ee/Idiot Book Nook. You'll be able to find links to all of our podcasts, episodes, all of our. You'll be able to find a link to our YouTube, to our Twitch, to all of our individual socials, and all of that glorious, glorious stuff. For this episode of the Idiot Book Nook, I'm Blazewing.
I am the reading dragon.
I'm Lady Punnet.
And I'm Crittershy.
And we will see you next episode.